Roots and Bounty Homestead. I'm going to show you some of our meals that we did this week as part of using some items out of our pantry. And here I've got some leftover ham that we had from this past Sunday's meal with the family. And here we're going to make a ham and broccoli rice casserole. To get started, we're going to put in 3 to 4 tablespoons of butter and let that get melted down. We're also going to use 4 ounces of softened cream cheese. And this is making a cheese sauce to go in the casserole. And there we have about a 1/4 cup of parmesan cheese and then about a cup of shredded cheese. I have it on medium here just to melt it all together, but not get it too hot. We're going to add in about 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream just to make this smooth and creamy. Once we get it all mixed up, we'll just take it off the eye, do a little cleanup. And then we've got to cut up our broccoli and ham. And you can cut this up to any size, or you can actually use some frozen flowerets if you choose to do so. I like to cut off the stems inside the flowerets and just use the top seed part in our broccoli casseroles. On the back eye, I am putting a pot of water in and putting 2 cups of rice in. Now I use long grain rice, and we're just going to let that cook down for about 10 to 15 minutes. Earlier today, I got out some frozen sourdough English muffins that I hadn't used, and I wanted to go ahead and use them up. And this recipe calls for a breadcrumb topping, and so I'm just using those to do the topping with. And I put those in the oven under broil for just a few minutes just to get them nice and dried out and toasted. I'll do those later. So here I'm getting the ham all diced up, and there is the topping that come out. I want to go ahead and add the broccoli and the ham into the rice as it finishes cooking for the last few minutes, just to get everything warmed up and kind of steam the broccoli. We'll just give that a nice toss. I don't really have any measurements for any of this, but the broccoli would probably be a couple of cups and the ham would be a couple of cups. And then you just want to mix everything all together. That's our cheese sauce that's melted down, and just mix it all together. Nice and cheesy. We're going to add that to a casserole dish here in a second. You can add salt and pepper to taste and whatever seasonings that you would like. In the casserole dish, I am going to go ahead and spray it just so everything doesn't stick, and put it in nice and even. To get our crumb topping, we're going to take those toasted English muffins there and just put them through the food processor, get them all chopped up into fine breadcrumbs. It only takes just a few pulses. And then we have some melted butter. We are just going to toss those in, get them good and coated, so as they cook in the oven, they will crisp up but not burn. So that's the whole purpose of putting a little bit of butter in with them. I'm actually saving the rest of those breadcrumbs for another recipe. And we've already got our oven preheated to 350. It only takes a few minutes, probably about 15 minutes, to get it nice and bubbly. So with the crumb topping, you're just going to spread it evenly over the top, and you do not have to cover this dish because you want that topping to be crispy and not soggy. So that's going to cook for, I think, about 12 to 15 minutes depending on your stove. Just make sure you watch it. But you see the edges are nice and bubbly, and it's ready to eat once it cools off. There she is in all her glory. So for the next dish, you're actually going to see this in part of a collaboration I'll be putting out tomorrow. This is a cheesy butternut squash mac and cheese. So I'm just showing you here how I prepare the squash to go ahead and roast it or bake it in the oven, because the skin is so hard that I just want to go ahead and soften the meat up, and then we can scoop that out. So here I'm removing the seeds, and you will see those seeds later in this video. I'm topping the butternut squash with a little bit of oil, and then they will go in the oven on 400 degrees for about an hour. And the reason why you turn them upside down is because you want that steam to be held in while they cook, and that way it'll cook that inside meat. So we've got to get our noodles ready, and I'm gonna cook this in my big Dutch oven pot, adding salt to the water. And I'm using Jovial einkorn flour fusilli pasta, and this is just going to cook according to the package. After about an hour, you'll see the squash is nicely roasted on top, and those are ready to come out. And allow them to cool before you try to handle them. So once the pasta is done, you go ahead and drain it out, and we're going to add in a couple of tablespoons of butter, and then about a quarter cup of the einkorn flour. This is going to make a roux, and once the roux is nicely coated and thickening, then we're going to add in 3 cups of milk. I will have this recipe and the video in further description in the video tomorrow during the collaboration for Noodle November. And I'm going to make a 3 cheese sauce, which is going to combine cream cheese, shredded cheese, cheddar cheese, and Parmesan cheese. And as this roux thickens up, that's where I'm going to go ahead and add all of this cheese together and get it nice and warm and melted. Just give it a good stir and allow it to warm up slowly. I think I've got this on about medium. So as that is melting, I go ahead and get the butternut squash together and out of the skin. Save the skins for your chickens or your animals. And then once that sauce is nice and combined smooth together, we're going to add the butternut squash into the sauce and just mix it all up. It's very soft, so it mixes well with the cheese sauce, and there's no need to get an immersion blender or anything like that unless you see there's a need to. Add the pasta to it and mix it all together. Now I did go ahead and add a little bit more pasta to it because the cheese sauce made a little bit more than I thought. So I just added a few more noodles to it, and there you go. This next recipe I'm going to have in the description below, but Logan wanted to make some Amish buttermilk brownies. He loves to get in the kitchen and cook all these goodies that I'm not supposed to be eating. So here he's going to enjoy some brownies. And we found this recipe in an Amish cookbook that we have. I'll have it typed up below, and you guys can go out and make it for yourself. So we've got flour and salt, baking soda, our dry ingredients, and then we've got to make the chocolate sauce because cocoa doesn't mix very well until it's heated. We're adding butter, water, and cocoa powder to the sauce pot, and it is going to be melted down there, you see. It's not going to thicken up because you don't have a thickening agent in it. But what we've got to do is mix that cocoa in and then pour it into the dry ingredients, and that way it will be mixed in a lot better. He's going to stir that into the flour and sugar, baking soda, and salt, and then it has tempered down, so we are able to put in the eggs that he has mixed up there. I believe that is eggs and oil that he went ahead and mixed together. And so the flour and sugar cools down the chocolate enough where you don't get scrambled eggs when you pour in the egg mixture. So he's got it all stirred up there, and we're fixing to get ready to pour it into the casserole dish, which I have sprayed. You can butter it, you can spray it, you can do however you need to, just so it doesn't stick. He's a good little helper helping me out here. Or I'm his helper. I'm helping him out because he wanted to make them. This is his second time making them. These are his favorite. Of course. He likes to lick the bowl. He was scared he got it in his hair. So then those go in the oven, I believe at 350. Check the recipe down below and make sure. And those will be cooking for until they're done. And you see me testing it with a toothpick here and it wasn't done. So I had to leave them in there for just a couple more minutes. They were almost ready. Here on the stove, as I told you before, you will see the butternut squash seeds. I'm just doing a light toasting on them with some salt and pepper. And that'll make a great little snack for me during the week. And Logan got to check it this time and the brownies were done. So we were able to maneuver them and get them out of the oven. We've been enjoying them the last couple of days. This is another collaboration video you will see later next week, I believe. And this is a creamy chicken and wild rice soup. So here I am mixing in, or going ahead and preparing the rice, boiling it down for 45 minutes. Go ahead and getting it ready, and you do put a little bit of butter in there, and that's just cooked according to the package. In the background you also see I have some chicken in the Instapot, and that's the way I like to cook my chicken for shredded chicken. So just mix the rice around and then cover it and let it cook, stirring it 2 or 3 times during the 45 minutes to make sure it doesn't run out of water. In this recipe it calls for some shredded carrots or diced carrots, however you guys like to prepare them in a soup. And I went ahead and pre-measured out all of my ingredients that I was going to be putting in. It calls for an onion, it calls for garlic, rosemary. There's a bunch of different spices, thyme, oregano. It also calls for celery, which I did not have. So you'll see here in a second I put in some celery salt. And then just top it off with some salt and pepper. I went ahead and got those out while I'm waiting on the rice to cook, and I've got 8 minutes left back there on the chicken, so everything will be ready just to dump together. Okay, so probably about the last 10 minutes or so of the rice cooking, you still see some water down there in the bottom. It's almost absorbed all the way, but I'm gonna go ahead and add in the carrots and onions and spices so that way it can all get rehydrated. The carrots can cook a little bit and those spices begin to flavor all the vegetables and the rice as well. This will only take about another 10 minutes or so, and then everything will be ready to pour together. So with my Instapot, I do put a towel over it so that steam doesn't blow everywhere. We're mixing in some einkorn flour to make another roux. Like I said, I'll have the recipe in the video coming out next week. This is half and half, and milk. You can do whole milk if you want, or you can do half milk, half water, whatever you would like to do, whatever you've got on hand. And there you see the rice and carrots and everything is cooked down, and I'm pouring in 2 jars of my homemade bone broth. That's going to cook while I shred the chicken here in just a little bit. We've got the cheese sauce that we made here, and that's what's going to make it nice and creamy because it's that roux that we're putting in. That flour is going to cook and it's going to thicken up that chicken broth and make it nice and creamy. Just get it all stirred together, and I did go ahead and cover it back up so that way it'll go ahead and cook some. I'm getting out about 4 chicken breasts from the Instapot, and I'll show you here in a second. I shred mine with a hand mixer, and I have learned to put a towel over my arm because it does splash sometimes and it will get on your arm. So I'm kind of tearing them apart, putting them in there, just little dobs of chicken all over the soup there, because I wanted to kind of get some of those extra big pieces pulled apart as I was putting it in there, and just mix it all together. I did let it cook for about 5 or 10 more minutes just to go ahead and thicken up. You see it's nice and thick and creamy as we get it all served up. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will ask you to come back for the next one. Thank you for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye.